Before starting the video, I sincerely invite you to become an integral part of our community by subscribing to our channel. If the content resonates with the chords of your being, a simple gesture like hitting the like button or expressing your thoughts through comments will be highly appreciated. Today's world, with the advancement of technology, you might think that our electronic devices like televisions, computers, phones, and similar ones can produce millions of colors. However, in reality, these devices only produce three primary colors: red, green, and blue. Screens are designed to deceive your brain by mixing these three basic colors. When you mix these three primary colors, a new color is formed in your mind. In other words, dogs don't perceive televisions as beautiful because they can only perceive two colors, whereas humans can perceive three. For example, pigeons can perceive 5 colors, one of which is ultraviolet. Similarly, in real life, you can create a new color in the human brain, create things that don't exist, turn something bad into something beautiful, or turn something beautiful into something bad. This may seem like a psychological illusion, but it's actually a science-based phenomenon. This process is called intervention, as described in Rory Satterland's book Alchemy Intervention. Intervention is similar to innovation, but instead of creating something new in the psychological world, you create something new in your brain. This video will share 7 great suggestions taken from the book. 1. Perception is reality. In 2009, a train company named Eurostar lost customers to airlines. How could they make it easier to reach from London to Paris? They could organize a good trip and spend over $8 billion to build entirely new train tracks to shorten the total travel time from 3 hours 20 minutes to 2 hours 40 minutes. The way to solve this problem psychologically is to stop looking at the amount of time and focus on the quality of time. So what could they have done? Of course, they could make the journey a better experience, for example, by installing Wi-Fi on trains, something they haven't done for 10 years, or by hiring the world's most beautiful male and female models and providing champagne service along the way, all for just $1 billion. It sounds ridiculous and funny. But it would have been a much cheaper solution. We all perceive time differently depending on what we're doing. For example, you've always used phrases like "it was the longest 5 minutes of my life" or "I can't believe how quickly this hour passed." So think about how you can apply this information to your own work. For example, you could redecorate the waiting room in your office. Customers can do things they enjoy while waiting and forget what they're waiting for. Another thing about time. We're all in uncertainty. We don't like to wait. You can reduce time by reducing uncertainty. For example, compare Uber and a taxi. Probably Uber is better than a taxi. You think it's faster. Uber doesn't make the car reach you faster. Instead, it reduces the uncertainty of the time you have to wait. How do you show where the car is on a map? Because when you see where the driver is and the estimated time, you feel more in control and comfortable. Waiting for a car that will take 10 minutes is better than waiting in uncertainty for 5 minutes. People hate uncertainty. So if you find a way to reduce it, you'll undoubtedly have the most valuable product or service. When you look at your problems psychologically rather than logically, you can find better and even more cost-effective solutions. It's quite amazing that if you buy one Ferrari in the UK, it will be delivered to your local dealer for free, but there's a second option called the factory tour. If you're curious about how it works, you pay £500 to visit the Ferrari factory and all yours, including travel expenses, but at the end of the tour, you get your brand new Ferrari. They're going to do has nothing to do with reality. Reality hasn't changed at all. But by calling it a factory tour, they got you to pay £500 and buy your own car. It's not about changing the truth. Reality has never changed. However, by calling it a factory tour, they changed it so that you would pay £500 and buy your own car. Another example can be given from the automotive industry. Many cars looked quite expensive compared to other cars. So, quite a clever move, they stopped taking the cars to car shows and started exhibiting them at yacht and air shows. When placed next to planes and boats, a $250,000 car looked quite cheap. Another example is that many companies fail not because their products are bad but because they don't know how to market the product. The biggest example of this is Royal. In the UK, the rate of first-class letters and post reaching in one day is 97%. Royal wanted to improve this further and reach 98%, but what happened? Unfortunately, it brought huge costs to this system and almost collapsed it. Interestingly, when you ask people how much of the first-class mail arrives the next day, the answers usually range from 40% to 80%. So no one said 100% or 97%. This proves that it's not the service itself, but the perception of the service. If the service is really worse, then why are you trying to improve the truth, instead of improving the perception? Actually, what needs to be done is very simple: advertising and telling people how good your product is. So there's no logic in skipping marketing instead of focusing on the product. People need to have a great product, but they also need to believe that it's a great product when they buy it. 2. Small interventions can make a big impact. We think complex problems require complex solutions, but sometimes even a simpler intervention than it seems can have a significant impact. For example, instead of spending a lot of money to make elevators faster, you can install mirrors. Mirrors can distract you and make you feel the elevator is much faster than it really is. Let's say you're a doctor and your patients stop taking antibiotics right after their symptoms disappear. The logical solution is to explain how dangerous it is. Or even give a little biology lesson and explain how powerful bacteria can be. So they really get sick. However, there's an easier solution. Give them 24 white pills instead of 18 white and 6 blue pills and tell them to take the white ones first, then the blue ones, and when you separate the pieces like this, they'll think it's a two-step process. When there's a step, people are much more likely to reach the conclusion. Let me give you a personal example. Sometimes I see that some people take my videos and share them as if they were their own videos. The only thing they changed is usually a word in the title or a small detail, so guess what the result is? Is that video better than mine? It gets more views. I was both angry and surprised. Because how can the same video perform better on channels with not even 10 subscribers? But now I understand that these little changes make a difference. 3. The opposite of a good idea is a good idea. In science, there are right and wrong answers. The opposite of a correct answer is an incorrect answer. Some restaurants have made this part of their culture. When you go to such restaurants, the waiter may throw your food in front of you and even say bad things to you. When you make rude behavior a part of your culture and people expect to be treated badly, it can become a fun experience, and people will enjoy it. Red Bull can be taken as an example. Red Bull is the opposite of Coca-Cola. It tastes weird, comes in a small can, and is more expensive than cola. If you give people a small can of a different tasting drink that is more expensive, they will still pay more for the less quantity. If I told you I was going to make a drink, I'm sure you'd laugh at me, but Red Bull did it. 4. Don't hesitate to ask stupid questions because no one else will. Sometimes the solution to a problem lies in asking a question that everyone thinks is stupid. Asking the kind of question everyone thinks they know the answer to can lead to groundbreaking insights and innovations. For example, why do you take your children to the doctor when they get sick? I know you thought that was a stupid question, but wait a minute. The answer to my question is because they are sick and you want them to get better, right? Of course, you want your children to feel better, but there are many other motivations behind this rational behavior. When people go to the doctor, they are often not looking for treatment but for reassurance. You don't want an improvement, you want someone to tell you that your child is okay. If you have a child, you know that when they have a fever, it's due to the flu or a virus, and their body will heal on its own. But it's important for the pediatrician to tell you that. Even if it happens, you want them to say your child is fine. Some people go to the doctor even if they're not sick, just to check if they have anything wrong with them. This is just a search for reassurance. This can help you understand how people really feel. If you create a small space in your workplace where people can try things that don't make sense logically, you can gain a significant competitive advantage. The biggest benefit of doing nonsensical experiments is that most of your competitors will be afraid to go this route. 5. Don't design for average. If we consider that many people are not actually average, designing for an average person can lead to failure. Think about this: while some adults are 2 meters tall, others are 1.30 meters tall. This means that the average person would be 1.65 meters tall. If you were designing pants, would you expect one person to be 1.65 meters tall? What about someone who is 2 meters tall or 1.30 meters tall? Probably not. By the way, we're not even considering the average weight. Designing something for an average person may seem like a safe bet that it will be a product that everyone will love, but it's not true in reality. Just as people's bodies are different from each other, their preferences and needs are also different. Instead of trying to create something that everyone will love, it's better to focus on specific groups' special needs or preferences. If you can really create something they'll like, they'll tell all their friends about it, and they'll help your product succeed. The most interesting example of this is Harry Potter. This story was created for 11-year-old British boys, but it was loved by their own audience so much that it leaked to other audiences and became the darling of people of all ages and countries today. 6. People don't look at the world objectively. Let's say I need to create an ad for a car and I have to make a choice, but I don't know which option to choose. The first option is to show how beautiful the inside of the car is and how spacious the outside is. The second option is to show the car racing side by side with a large lion on the African savanna. If we think about which option might be more successful, we might think the logical one is the first option. However, if we consider that people don't look at the world objectively, we can see that the second option might be more effective. Because people are emotionally affected. If people see the car next to a lion on the African savanna, it can provide an exciting experience, making the car more attractive. This example shows that people's emotional responses are an important factor in determining their preferences, rather than objective realities. 7. Change the context. Stepping back and changing the context to find a solution to a problem can allow us to see the problem from a different perspective. For example, according to a study, students' performance on math exams can vary depending on the color of the paper on the exam. What's interesting is that the color of the exam paper doesn't affect students' math abilities, but it does affect their stress levels. In this case, changing the context by changing the color of the exam paper can reduce students' stress levels and therefore improve their performance. These suggestions can give you ideas on how to use psychological interventions and change to your advantage. The key is to seek creative and effective solutions rather than ordinary ones. I hope you learned something with these interesting facts about the complexity of technology and how our brains perceive it. Remember, perception is reality and small interventions can have big impacts. You can find more creative and effective solutions in your life by using this information. See you in the next video.